On to our next segment. Next and last one for today's show. It's a story basically out of NPR. And it's about the basically an evaluation of sorts on a 6-month trial of the title of the article is 6-month experiment replacing Denver police with mental health teams dubbed a success. And it's a story in NPR. And basically what this is, ladies and gentlemen, it is, I believe what they tried to do in Denver called, it's a STAR, and I don't remember exactly what STAR stands for at the moment, but you can get it by going to the article. But basically, they have stood up to some degree an alternative response system. So the STAR people get dispatched by 911 to a certain segment of calls that doesn't need a person with a gun to show up, and normally would get a person with a gun, but now gets this STAR crisis response. This is modeled to some degree after the Cahoots program in Eugene, Oregon, and we know about it, and you can learn about it, because on the show a few months ago, we had Tim and Ebony. Tim is from the, I'm sorry, I should go into this a little more, from the Whitebird Clinic in Eugene, Oregon. They have stood up 30 years ago. They stood up a program called Cahoots. As you see there, crisis assistance helping out on the streets. It's a crisis response team, and it teams up a medical professional, paramedic nurse with a mental health or social worker, and they take around, I think, 20, there's some argument over what percentage of calls, but say over 20% of the calls they take away from the police. And a crisis response, a Cahoots response is sent. This has been ongoing in Eugene, Oregon, and now Springfield, Oregon, for 30 years. Denver and multiple other cities, Rochester, New York City, and some others, I think San Diego, are starting after what happened last spring and summer, the events there. They started to stand up a Cahoots response in their local jurisdictions. So we are trying to get someone from the STAR program on our show. As you see here on the screen, that is a interview that we did with Tim and Ebony from the Whitebird Clinic. We are in the process, and the reason I showed the advertisement for the Nation is because we are in the process. We have a group of individuals who have spent a couple of months now looking into Cahoots and the Cahoots program, and looking into where it's been replicated around the country and how they've done it and what their budgets are. We, CJP, want to propose that Chicago stand up a Cahoots response system, very closely mimicking what has been going on in Eugene. We don't need trials, ladies and gentlemen. Even in Denver, the trial was an absolute waste of time. They've been doing it for 30 years. They know what works. They know what doesn't. This isn't something where they've just tried it in Eugene for a year and it worked. It's like, oh, we may want to test that further to make sure. This has been going on 30 years. So back to the Nation. This group of people in the Nation have been researching it for a couple of months. They're going to help us put together a proposal for the city of Chicago to stand up a Cahoots response. They're testing it in a very limited, very weak, ridiculously horrific, slow way in Chicago, because that's Mayor Lightfoot's way of doing things. We'll try it. We'll dip a toe in when we already have 30 years of work. We don't need to dip a toe in. We can dive into this. But this is an example of the type of work Nation is doing. They're doing that for other types of programs around the country that we're researching. So if you're interested in taking part, once again, info@chicagojustice.org, and we can get you hooked up with our people running the Cahoots, running the Nation program. We are hoping in the next month or two at the longest to have our proposal around Cahoots completed and published. And we're obviously going to bring some of the group members that are involved in that project on the show to talk about their experiences and what they've learned. It's a fascinating thing. It's very, very important. And if you're looking at the events of late, ladies and gentlemen, the shooting last night, I think it was in Minnesota, where now the officer's been confusing cases. In Minneapolis, the officer said he actually went to pull his taser, and he accidentally pulled his gun and fired and killed the person. The young gentleman whose name I don't remember because they're coming too quick and too fast all over the country. So he meant to tase them rather than shoot him, but he killed him. We have the case which now happened in December, but just broke in the news. And I can't remember where it is, but it involves a lieutenant, an active duty lieutenant in the U.S. Army, I believe, who was maced, pepper sprayed, and taken down on a traffic stop. The traffic stop was basically baseless. We need to get cops out of interactions they don't have to be a part of.